Alright, so this is the DB-03R Koso gauge. I installed it on the Honda Ruckus with the stock 49cc motor. This is how it looks. It's got 3 different colors. You can choose orange, blue, or purple. And then for the fuel gauge on the Honda Ruckus, we used a Metropolitan float. And then you have to calibrate the gauge to get it to read properly. And just to show you the RPM. Signals. It comes with the coolant temperature sensor, which is right there. It's the same thread as the original one, so you can just replace the original sensor right there. And then the coolant light on the stock, or the coolant warning light comes on at 120 degrees Celsius, so you can also program that in here. So let me show you how to do that. You hold the 2 buttons to get into the adjusting menu. So the first selection here, you can change Celsius to Fahrenheit. The second sub menu is your kilometers warning. I have it set to 90. The third one is to set your red light. I have it set to 10,000 RPM, so it'll basically flash red if you hit 10,000 as a warning. And then the orange light you can set for another RPM range. I have it set at 9,000. So you can start backing off throttle if you ever go over 9, just to protect the engine. There's your temperature warning I was telling you about. I have it set to 120 degrees, just like the stock coolant temperature warning light on the Ruckus. This one is your speedo. So I have it set at 3P, which means there's 3 magnets. And then that's your tire circumference setting. I had to, even though I measured the circumference like in the manual, I still had to fine tune it using a GPS. As you can see, that's where I installed the speed sensor. Runs up along the harness here, or the brake cable. And then there's 3 magnets. So the magnets, I had to basically measure out the distance between each 3. I drilled a little pilot hole into the wheel, and then I just glued them in so they won't move. But basically, the only reason I had to do it this way is because it's a drum brake. And the owner of this bike wanted to keep the original drums, so normally these magnets are about 5 mil. They're meant to fit inside of the disc brake. Here, I'll show you on another Ruckus. Normally the magnets fit into these bolts that hold the disc brake on. Well, if you don't have disc brakes, then you gotta do what I did. Like that. So, I kicked you out of the menu here. Where were we? All right. So we talked about that. Menu 7 is P is your RPM. So you leave that on high if it's on the, if you're reading off of the positive terminal of the ignition coil, and then obviously it's one piston engine. So this one lets you change your tach. So 0 to 10,000. There's a 0 to 12,000 and 0 to 15. I'll just leave it at 10. This is your fuel gauge setting. So the Honda uses 510 ohms. That's what you want, especially when you're using the Metropolitan sending unit. That's your time setting. And then these are your color settings. Or sorry, this is your illumination. So it's at there's 5 different brightnesses. I have it at 4. This is your color, it's on orange. And then this is to turn on or off the gears. Well, this thing has a CVT, doesn't have gears, so I turned it off. That's your odometer, you can change that. And that's it. The Koso DB-03R on a Honda Ruckus.